I got an email this morning from Gallup saying that 50% of the US workforce has quietly quit, or that quiet quitters make up 50% of the US workforce, just to be more accurate. And that really kind of set me on a spiral thinking about what are the long-term implications of having such a high percentage of the US workforce somewhat disengaged, or at least disengaged from going above and beyond, doing the bare minimum, which I think is one of the common definitions of quiet quitting. And I dug a little bit further into some of the Gallup data, and I found this chart on screen here that talks about, or that shows just how many workers, at least in March of 2021, were looking for a new job. And I think it aggregated out to about 48%. So nearly half of the US workforce, or half of the workers surveyed, were looking for a new job. And I think it just speaks to such a troubling time for the US workforce and what it means for workers, especially over the next, I'd say, 10, 20 years, if you're coming into the workforce now. So my initial thought when I saw the quiet quitting stat was that if workers are disengaged and not willing to go above and beyond, there has to be an inherent hit to culture, workplace culture, and the employee experience. I think, I'm sure you and myself, we've all known people who, that you just know that they come into work and they check their boxes and they just do nothing to contribute any more than what's written on their job description. And that's fine for a lot of people. That's absolutely fine. I think that's what's written in the contract maybe, and so that's all that's expected. But when you're in a team setting and you're all rowing in the same direction, we should, as professionals, strive to do the best that we can to leave the workplace better than we found it, and to leave each day at work at least trying to have accomplished something, to have pushed the organization forward. Otherwise, what's the point of being there? From a personal ambition standpoint, we've all got finite lives, and in those lives, I think we all should try to strive, and we should want to better ourselves and better our situation for our families, and make sure that if we all don't get wealthy, that's one thing, but we should at least probably strive for financial security and for those that we care about. And the idea then that half of the U.S. workforce is quietly quit, that then speaks to so what does it mean for people that are coming into the workforce now? So let's say you've just left college and you're going into your first job, and you're bright-eyed and you're bushy-tailed, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to learn a ton. I'm going to go into this workplace. I'm going to learn a ton. I'm going to contribute. And the person that is training you, is kind of checked out. And chances are 1 in 2 individuals, they probably have checked out, right, according to that stat. So you then will lose your enthusiasm quickly, I think, as a new hire, as somebody going. And that's also the case just going into any organization. I mean, we're still at pretty high levels of quits, and we're still at a pretty high churn in the U.S. labor market. If the place that you go to, you realize, the people here, if checked out, 1 in 2 is checked out, then you're just not going to have the enthusiasm. And when you think about the U.S. labor force right now, the individuals who are still making jumps, considering the macroeconomic factors right now, inflation, the great firing, energy prices in Europe, just all these things are interrelated. And the idea that it's a good time to make a move. I read something earlier, I think it was this morning, that talked about it's still a good time because employers are paying a premium for workers, for talent. But to think that now is a good time to make a move, considering last in, first out, there's so many organizations doing layoffs. I mean, it's a really choppy time. You end up getting the kind of worker, I think, on aggregate or on average, that is comfortable making moves no matter the aggregate situation. And so what happens is that these individuals go into a workplace, they see that it's not lived up to what they're expecting, or that half the workers have checked out, and then they just move on to the next place. It already costs between 1.5 to 2 times, according to Gallup, an individual's salary to replace somebody. And I think that's probably low side. If you consider the loss of productivity at the executive level for the people that have to do the interviews, if you consider the amount of manpower and resources that HR has to do to use to fill open positions, the time and money spent to train the worker that is left. I mean, it's an enormous cost to deal with retention issues, and I think that if you've got a workforce that's quietly quit or is disengaged, then you're going to get to a place where your cost per hire is just going to skyrocket, because you can't, cost per hire is very closely related to function. Is very closely related to culture. And, and if culture is suffering because people are just disengaged at work or have quietly quit, then cost per hire goes up. Time to hire goes up too. If you put that against the metric being, we want the people who stay. It's just a really interesting time to be in the talent acquisition space and employer brand space, because we're dealing with issues that have been exacerbated by COVID and by the last 2.5 years, by the shift in the way people want to work. It's just a crazy time. And the numbers this morning, when I saw 50% of the U.S. workforce is quietly quit or is made up of quiet quitters, I think just blew my mind. I'll be curious to know what you think of this whole quiet quitting concept, the situation, and whether you're seeing it at your office, at your workplace, or whether you've quietly quit yourself, and the reasons for that in the comments section below.